So Philip, you're someone who has had a lot of life experience. So when you approach being a musician that wants to stand out in such a crowded space like the music business, and an equally crowded genre, you're kind of one of those, bluesy folks who has a kind of that niche. Is there something that having that life experience gives you an advantage for?
I think it's easier for me to push through those valleys because I learned that quitting just really is an option in anything, and it was the same with my, I've had bad times in business, I've had bad times in music, I've had bad times in pretty much every aspect, relationships, every aspect of my life, and it goes back to the adage that the night's always darkest before the dawn, and if you just keep pushing through, then you should be able to, if you have a semblance of talent and wherewithal, you should be able to make something out of it. With that said, there is a time that everybody should know when it's time to kind of throw in the towel. There's times when a lot of people try to force a square peg in a round hole, if you know what I mean. Sure. But I think a lot of ways that musicians fail is they don't see themselves as a brand. They any brand requires marketing. Musicians forget to realize that they're a brand, and so I meet a lot of musicians that are proud to say that they don't promote themselves, and they that's their kind of favorite thing to say to me. I don't promote myself. I don't feel the need to do that. I don't feel the need to do that. Well, Coca-Cola is one of the largest companies in the entire world, and they still feel the need to market and push their brand name. And so, you don't meet guys like Jason Mraz and John Mayer and women like Colby Calais. You don't know about them because they didn't, market themselves.
There were times I felt so alone, even though you were right next to me. There were times I could sense that you just didn't want to be here. When you finally left on that long trip back home, I was stuck sitting on one side of the couch, like a sob there all alone. And I tried to breathe, and I tried to sleep all day, wishing that all this pain would just go away. And you knocked on the door right outside. It was a beautiful surprise. I didn't know where we should begin, 'cause all I know is that I fell in love all over again.
That's what's going to make you stand out, is having that brand.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
As someone who picked up a guitar and just had a natural fit with it, and then you took some lessons later on, what's something simple someone can grasp right away or fairly quickly that would drastically improve their own playing, just by picking up and not taking any lessons?
For me, it was learning some of my favorite songs early on. You don't want to take lessons. There's lots of resources online. My favorite guy is a guy named Marty Schwartz. I think a lot of people have heard of him, and he's hilarious, and he's really talented, and he's got a YouTube channel, and he puts all this stuff out for people to learn on. And but it boils down to, I call it the Leonidas principle. And the Leonidas principle, there's a story in this book called Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield, and all the he led his Spartans to this area where they all had to build a wall, and all these commanders and everything like that are around him, and they're all sitting there talking about the wall, and they're talking about how to build a wall, and we got to do this, but you can't do that before this, and you got to learn this. And all of a sudden they look over, and King Leonidas is just sitting there. He walks over and just grabs a stone and puts it in place, and then he grabs another stone and puts it in place, and everybody's like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should just get started then. And that's the case. You just need to do it. If you want to do something, you got to do it. You can't sit here and analyze the crap out of everything and oh, I need to learn this, but I can't learn this without learning this first. Just figure out what you want to learn and just start learning it. The pieces will fall into place. At least they did for me.
Your dad really was responsible for your music education early on, right? I mean, your eclectic taste stems from that education, I would assume.
He was really responsible for a lot of that. He introduced me to Pink Floyd. He introduced me to Stevie Ray Vaughan. He introduced me to just these Eric Clapton, just these fantastic artists from, the 60s and 70s and 80s. A lot of my musical tastes are directly influenced by him.
All established, and probably if you ask people on the street, they would name one of those guys as the greatest guitarist of all time. So do you think that he had an idea that this is the path you were going to walk?
I think he did. So I picked up the guitar at 15, and by 16 I was, pretty proficient, I suppose, in playing blues and blues solos and everything like that. And so I was never bad at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
And so I don't know if you've ever been lived in some kind of apartment complex or a condominium complex where maybe a neighbor was, one of the kids is playing trumpet for the first time.
Yes.
It's tough to get through, and so my dad always said he never had to go through that. He said he was lucky because even when I was playing electric guitar, first couple months I was able to make it sound something like music and confidently like music. And so I was lucky in the sense that I had a dad that was supportive, a family that was really supportive, and he could have easily been like, dude, I really need you to stop bending your strings like that and your notes up that high because you can't hit those notes on the guitar yet and it sounds like crap. And it could have easily been that way, but no, he never did that. Never ever did that. He always said, yeah, I heard you playing. And even though it sounded like garbage to me because I was switching from chord to chord and I couldn't get it right or what have you, he was always just saying, no, you got to keep going. You got to keep doing this. This is how you're going to pay for my retirement. He died when I was 18. And so he was actually one of the reasons why I put down the guitar for a little bit. I couldn't keep going. I don't know, it was pretty painful picking up the guitar, and he liked to watch me play, and he had me even sign this guitar he brought home when it was like a Walmart guitar, one of those ones that's like $30 and it comes with a little small amp. Yeah, he had me sign it, and he kept it in his closet. And when I went into his room after he died, I went into his closet, and there was this guitar that I had given him, that he had me sign, essentially.
What's your songwriting process? Are you someone who starts with a riff, lyric, or is it kind of a combination? It just happens organically? How do you approach the songwriting process?
Actually, I do I approach the process a bit differently than a lot of people around me. I actually take kind of a theme. I almost write my songs like I write like a term paper or something like that, some kind of essay. So I start with a topic that I want to write about, and I kind of derive the lyrics from that. So
yeah, you might be the first musician I've ever met that plots, that is an outliner. That sounds like an outliner.
I don't know. It just works for me. There's I don't know. I haven't had writer's block for a while since I started kind of writing that way, and so yeah, it just works for me. I don't know.
Does that help? Does it help in preparedness for the studio recording as well? Do you feel like that's a good method so that you know where you're going to hit what you need to hit in the studio?
Yeah, definitely. My studio guy, his name's Dylan. He's up in a place called Woodinville, and it's pretty cool because he's got kind of a similar process that I do. He starts in one area that's maybe not usual to a lot of recording specialists and recording engineers and everything like that, and he kind of works his way back. And it's similar to the way I think that's why him and I have a lot of synergy when it comes to our recordings. And early on, I wasn't really trusting in the process. I was wanting to record the vocals 4, 5, and 6 times, and he's like, dude, you got to have more confidence in me than that. And so this last recording session we did, I think I only recorded the vocals twice, and I was just like, no, I think that's good. I think you've got it down. You know, I trust your process. And
you're going to release it now. Are you? Is there plans for you to do a little touring with that?
Yeah. So I had a conversation with my manager, and I've had a conversation with my, some of the other people that have been involved in helping me get where I'm at, and we've kind of set some goals. One of the biggest goals I think is going to be opening for a larger act here within the next year. I think I'd like to open for someone like, Shawn Mendes or John Mayer or something like that. That'd be great. But, I also set my sights on being in Guitar World magazine and stuff like that too. So I think there's definite plans for where that EP is going to take me.
Do you have a dream venue you want to play at?
Oh yeah, the Gorge Amphitheater up here that's like, John Mayer did a clinic at the Berklee School of Music. He said you have to define success for yourself. If your definition of success is to sell 1 million albums, then what do you do once you hit 1 million albums? So for me, defining success is one of my major goals is to headline at the Gorge in it's called George Washington, the city of George over there.
How was the album building process for you? Did you're someone who puts a lot of thought into their songs. Did you have the same kind of idea putting a theme to an album?
Actually, I did. So there's a lot of poetry behind this album, I think. But the term wavelength, if you know what a sine wave looks like, and I'm sure a lot of people do, it looks like this. It just looks like a roller coaster. And a sine wave in the album cover is going to have a sine wave on it. But I think that's the way life is. You'd have your ups, and they're what I call mountains, and mountains, and then you have your downs, which are called valleys, and if you look at the way a mountain is, it's all dry and barren and everything like that. But those are the high times in our lives. And then you've got valleys, which are, the low points. But if you look at a valley, it's lush and green, and that's where things grow. And so, we have good times, and then we, where we're high on life and feeling great, and then we have our low times where we're learning and feeling like we just got slapped around. So there's songs on the album that take you to the highs. There's happy songs like the song In My Chords. That song's a happy song, and it's a really, it's like, I hear her name in my chords and I see it when she smiles, And then you've got the song, Best Friend, that talks about my dad specifically and losing him, and it's got some guitar parts that I think pull on the heartstrings.
What did you learn from this recording session that you'll take into the next one? The
music industry is an interesting one in the sense that it's really changing. It has changed so much in the last couple of years. When my dad was younger, he used to tell me going to the record store, they'd sit around and listen to records together, and now, you've got people that can't even sit through one song, on their headphones. They're sitting there going, okay, I like the beginning of this song, now I'm going to switch to that next song, and they're going through 4 songs in 2 minutes. And so, I start writing the music to try to grab the attention and hold on to it rather than just, and also the old way too, like a lot of the artists would write like 1 or 2 hits on an album and the rest would just be kind of garbage. Someone caught me on it early on because I was like, well, I just want to, I want to put out 12 songs on this album and everything. They're like, don't go quantity, go quality. And a small amount of quality in this type of music market now is much better than 1 good song and then 12 crappy ones. When I was younger, when I was about 15, I told myself I want to make music that people enjoy. That's the whole point. If I just sat and played music in my room and listened to it, it would not have fulfilled my music agenda, my music desires.
Because you knocked on the door right outside. You are a beautiful surprise. I didn't know where we should begin. 'cause all I know